Gracias por escuchar los podcasts de Radio Exterior. Acceda a todos los programas en rtv.es/a la carta. Radio Exterior de España.
English Language Service. Greetings from Madrid. In today's program, we get not only a concert and a conversation with an Italian pianist, but a demonstration of his method, providing audiences a deeper understanding and experience of the piece of music. In this case, it is Franz Liszt's paraphrase of Verdi's opera Rigoletto, and it was composed in 1859. Pianist Emanuele Ferrari gave the opening performance of the new musical series Suono Italiano, Madrid 2018, at the Italian Institute of Culture in the Spanish capital last month. A performer, musicologist and historian of music at the University of Milan, Bicoccio, Ferrari has given concerts, lectures, and his own special musical exegeses in cities around the world, in Italy, Switzerland, Spain, Germany, Holland, Sweden, Cyprus, Colombia, Brazil, and the United States. He's also written 4 monographs and dozens of essays on musical aesthetics and criticism. Ferrari offers a completely new approach to music that ties the magic of a concert with the emotion of a guided tour. He interprets and explores each piece, note by note, as if it were an enchanted castle, and he reveals its beauty and mysteries each step of the way. His concerts include poetry, readings, and images that help the audience understand the piece better, placing it in the context of other artistic expressions of the time. He gives a performance in which the public listens, feels, enjoys, and thinks. Our colleague Gil Carvajal spoke with Emanuele Ferrari before a concert at the Madrid Italian Institute and was given a demonstration of exactly what Ferrari would be doing with that piece, Liszt's Il sogno d'amore, a paraphrase of Rigoletto by Giuseppe Verdi.
Well, Maestro Emanuele Ferrari, you're here at the Italian Cultural Institute in Madrid, and you're going to give a lecture, a piano lecture? What are you going to do?
It's a concert lecture. It is a new kind of show which combines 2 different things. Usually you have to make an unhappy choice between listening to music or understanding it. This kind of show combines the 2 things. How? At the beginning of the evening, I'll play the piece as a whole in a concert, in a regular concert form. Then I'm going to play and to comment on it blow by blow, note after note, explaining the relationship between things inside the piece, and giving the public an opportunity to deep inside the piece, to listen and understand it, so to speak, with the ear of the musician. Then, at the very end of the evening, I'm going to play it as a whole again, and usually the public tells me that it sounds very different, richer and more enjoyable, because in music, the more you understand, the more you enjoyed it. And the subject of this particular concert lecture is the paraphrase made by Liszt of the famous scene by the Verdi's Rigoletto, Bella figlia dell'amore. This one. Bella figlia dell'amore, schiavo son dei vezzi tuoi. The interesting thing is that the Liszt paraphrase is not a mere transcription. Liszt does 2 fundamental things. First, it alters the character of the single characters, so to speak. For instance, in Verdi, Maddalena in these scenes just laughs. In Liszt, her voice becomes threatening and masculine, and even more sepulchral. Another example, in Verdi, the Duke of Mantova is only a libertine seducer, no more than this, a sort of Don Giovanni of low level. Instead, Liszt makes this character as a perfect lover. Really passionate and trustworthy, unlike the same character in Verdi. The second thing that Liszt does, very interesting, is that Liszt reshapes the drama. He takes the single elements from Verdi, but he cuts them and recombines in a new and different form. And we can see this from the very beginning. He begins the piece, I'm meaning Liszt, with the altered character of Maddalena, the former laughter, which is no more a laughter. Then Liszt combines this by sighs by Gilda, another character of the scene. But these sighs in Verdi are take place at the very end of the scene. So Liszt has taken two different parts of the scene and has created a new dialogue. So the whole piece reshapes entirely. And the most astonishing thing is a new scene created by Liszt, which take place right dead in the center of the scene, where in Verdi the vocal quartet shows all of its vocal effulgence. Instead, Liszt builds a new dream of love. But this new dream of love in Liszt takes place between the two most implausible characters in Verdi, which are the Duke of Mantua and Maddalena. In Verdi, the Duke of Mantua is an untrustworthy libertine seducer, and Maddalena is nothing more than the sister of a killer. But here they are transformed and transfigured. In Liszt, the Duke becomes the perfect lover, and Maddalena becomes Dante's Beatrice or Petrarch's Laura. That is the perfect muse, and the result is a dream of love. And so on.
Yes. Now, why would Liszt want to do something like this? Was he playing around, or did he do it often? Is it typical of him?
Yeah, there is many reasons. One, if you want, is the same that pushes people nowadays to make covers. Liszt was a genius, but he also made good business sense. So this was a really successful piece. So he made a personal version suitable for his extraordinary capability at the piano. But I think there is also something deeper. I think Liszt had a sort of hungry attitude towards beautiful things. So what he liked, he wanted to have also. And so this kind of transcription, this paraphrase, is a way to incorporate something else. And of course, as it is a genius, he is a genius, he doesn't only transcribe, he doesn't limit himself, but in transcribing, he reshapes everything, bringing the subject, the matter, closer to himself. So the deep reason is to make Verdi become Liszt.
Now, Liszt traveled all over Europe, including Madrid. He gave at least one concert, or had a visit here. Did he do this for an Italian audience? Because the people would have to know Verdi to fully appreciate what he was doing, no?
Yes, but I think this is really the asset of music. Pianoforte does not even uses words. So the international character of music speaks for itself, so to speak. So more than this, Liszt had a very powerful and charismatic personality, which allowed him to make him appreciated all the way around, all the world around, with no need of Italian or Spanish or other language.
Yeah, I mean, besides traveling all over Europe, he also became a priest in later life, no?
Yes, he was a really complex character. I think that in the first decades, he had all that he could desire from this virtuoso career. He began in style, he went on, and at a certain point he was still young, but thank goodness, I say, he had deeper spiritual desires. So he had a very long and complex path. And if you want, something similar happened in a different way, but we can make a comparison with Stravinsky. Stravinsky wrote, quite young, 3 very successful Russian-style works. After that, all the people around the world expected from Stravinsky this kind of music. But Stravinsky wasn't anymore interested in repeat himself. So he explored new paths, deceiving the people who wanted forever this first manner, first style of Stravinsky. I think is a character of the great spirits.
Yes. What period of Liszt's life did he write these?
We are in the 60s of the 18th century. Okay. So 1860. So he was 50. Mature, yes.
Well, you're especially interesting because you're also a philosopher. I think it's showing in your commentary. How does philosophy fit with music? What is the relationship?
It fits perfectly, especially for what I have to do. Because in this job, which consists of trying to translate the meaning of music into words in the more reliable way I can, philosophy provides me with a framework and teaches me how to set problems, and namely teaches me to take time to see if a question is good before rushing to try to answer the question. This is the most important thing that I have learned from philosophy. And philosophy teaches that every kind of object, including a musical object, has layers. So if you want to tell something reliable, you must be aware of which layer you are analyzing, not to mix up layers. What is true at some level is not true at another level. So it is really a good teacher, philosophy.
Yes, and you've written a number of books on different questions you thought were good enough to answer. Can you tell us something about the books?
Yes, the last one, which appeared recently in the USA in English, is entitled The Use of Silence in Classical Music, Perspectives on Listening and Understanding, which is my usual focus. Silence is a very interesting subject for music. For example, let's come back for a while to Liszt. The most important part and the most famous part of this quartet in Verdi is, of course, Bella figlia dell'amore. Bella figlia dell'amore. Okay. In Verdi, this is preceded by an opera buffa-like style duet between the two characters, the Duke and Maddalena. Un dì se mi rammento, oh bella ti incontrai, mi piacque di te chiedere, e intesi che qui stai, or sappi che d'allora sul te quest'alma d'ora. Why is that? Because Verdi wants to remind us which this character is not a serious one. So when he starts with Bella figlia del, which is a declaration of love, we are reminded that we cannot take him seriously. Okay, this is the aim of Verdi. The aim of Liszt is the opposite one. He wants us to believe the Duke. So what he does, he erases, he cuts Verdi's introduction, and instead he writes an impressive short introduction which builds an impressive silence around the music and an impressed silence inside the listener. I'll play it for you so you can check. This is Liszt beginning. When playing during my show this piece, at this point, the audience is diving in a deep and thick silence. This silence is exactly what gives the following declaration of love of the Duke, reliability and trustworthiness. So Liszt builds carefully this silence. So when the Duke starts in Liszt, he is no longer the libertine seducer we all know, but is turned by this silence into the perfect and noble lover. This is a wonderful example of the power, the expressive power of silence in music.
So what are you saying? That you just don't play for 3 seconds, or is it a suggestion of silence?
I mean that at this point of the piece, you in the public can perceive the silence in the hall that surrounds music on the one side. And on the other side, you feel yourself immersed into this deep silence. After all this, yes, there is a rest, of course, but there is more. This rest is charged by the expressive power of all that preceded, and this all amounts to a deep silence. So each single note resounds surrounded by silence. Please stay during this show, and you will touch it.
Yes. How do you recently gave this lecture at Brown University?
Yes, in Providence, USA.
What was the reaction of the audience?
Yes, the audience was very demanding because it was an international conference of musicology. So there was some dozens of the best fellows musicologists in the world listening to me. I can say that was really, really good, the appreciation. Okay. I was honored by this. And by the way, if someone is interested, you can find the audio video of this very lecture in English, just taping on YouTube Emanuele Ferrari, Liszt, Rigoletto, because they filmed it and it is available.
Well, that's silence. You've also dealt with happiness in music. What's the relation there?
Have you ever noticed that there is a connection between silence and splendor? In silence, things become sometimes radiant. For example, there is an Italian painter, Giorgio Morandi, which during all of his life just painted simple and humble things about some objects on a table, on a kitchen table. But there is a magic, there is a radiance coming from these pictures, which exactly comes from this. He somewhat can give you the impression that this world which he is painting is a world of silence. And in this silence, things get a special radiance. Color becomes more meaningful. The same happens at the end of the much more famous film 2001: A Space Odyssey by Kubrick. The last 20 minutes are plunged into silence. And in this silence, the colors of things becomes more vivid than ever. So it is as if silence is a sort of black backdrop against which each single color becomes richer, more vivid, and gets a silent life. This is the root, I think, of the connection between silence and happiness.
It almost seems like contemplation, like meditation, like spirituality and beauty.
Yes, this is the framework. Yes, you've got it.
Thanks to Gil Carvajal. For Pedro Berastegui at the sound controls and myself, Alison Hughes, thanks for tuning in. Hasta pronto.